Our guest tonight is Dr. Robyn Friend, Ph.D. She's a first-generation Bulgarian-American and lifelong dancer whose interest is in language, culture, and dance of Silk Road began at its western end in the Balkan regions of the Ottoman Empire, from where her family comes from. Her encounter with the Iranian while as a teenager led her to an interest further. She has traveled and studied culture of Silk Road from one end to another one, from Bulgaria to China. Working as a Persian dancer in a famous Delilah restaurant in Los Angeles during the 1970s, Dr. Friend was able to watch many women dancers who were dancing during the later years of the Qajar period. What she learned from those ladies, combined with her own study, led her to a personal interpretation of the dance of Qajar. Dr. Friend is now considered one of the premier sources of knowledge about Qajar dance and has received the mark of approval from the founder of International Qajar Study Association, Muhammad Iskandari Qajar, a direct descendant of the former ruling dynasty of Iran. In 2001, Dr. Friend began her formal study of Central Asia dance with peoples of artists of Uzbekistan. And since then, she made many trips to that area, Tajikistan, Tajik dance. There's so many other dances that I cannot pronounce, but from Azerbaijan and that area. Dr. Friend is one of the most prominent teachers of Iranian dance today. And I know she has class at Palos Verdes where she lives. And I know her very good students. She taught many of the former teachers of a Persian dance active today and has students all over the world. She also teaches dance in the Farsi school of Khane Iran, where we are from, and with the women in local Iranian diaspora. Dr. Friend has published many articles on Iranian dance, including entries on dance in Encyclopedia of Iranica, a chapter on Iranian regional dance in Iran, past and present, Salome Gholami. And she's currently working in a chapter of publication with Anthony Shea. And she has many other trips. She also performed in Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles, Canada, Europe, Uzbekistan, Turkey, and many other countries. Her company is called Firuz Dance. And she does a great job for Farhang Foundation, like the weekend before Nowruz in Los Angeles every year, and I've been a witness of that. She has Ph.D. on Iranian dancing from UCLA. We're very, very happy to have you here today. Thank you so much, especially being a International Women's Day, and I love dancing, and we'll see what you're going to present us. We're very excited. Please, Dr. Friend, would you like to start?
Thank you so much, Khanum Madani and Khane Iran, for inviting me to come and talk about this topic. So I think it's best if everybody mutes yourselves. Make sure you're muted so we won't have an echo. So I'm going to talk about dance along the Silk Road from Xi'an, which is the city in China where the terracotta warriors were found. So the topics for today, I'm going to talk about the geography of the region. because that's really important in the formation of the roads. A brief history of the roads, dance along the road in ancient times and today, and also some interesting contrasts between different areas along the road. So this is the region I'm going to cover, basically the region of the Silk Road. It went from China, and where it says Xi'an, well, I think we see it. Do we see Dunhuang on the later map? I think, yeah. And I'll show later some more detail of the actual road in the eastern part, and ends up going through the Balkans and to Venice, which was kind of the end point from which everything went out across Europe. Silk production technology was discovered by the Chinese. It originated in China in the Neolithic period, about 4,000 to 3,000 years before the Common Era. It stayed in China. It remained, China had basically a monopoly over it until the Silk Road opened during the latter part of the first millennium before the Common Era, which established the long distance trade routes. China protected the technology to maintain a monopoly on what became a very luxurious good at a premium price. Eventually the technology spread to Japan around 300 of the Common Era, possibly an early example of commercial espionage. By the year 552, it had spread to Byzantium, and about that time, the Arabs also began to manufacture silk. The Crusades brought the technology all the way to Europe, and particularly to Italy, which had a thriving textile industry. And then in the 16th century, France also began silk production. Again, so China became less important for silk production, but then in the 20th century, both China and Japan again became dominant in silk production. Today, China is still, again, the world's largest producer of silk. Actually, the Silk Road was a network of roads, which I'll show you on the map later, based on climate and geography. In the year 130 of this era, the Chinese established a commercial network aimed at trade with the West, including exporting silk and other trade goods, like paper and gunpowder, which were both Chinese inventions, also fruit, vegetables, grain, leather, and other goods, also including intangible goods of language, culture, religious beliefs, philosophy, and science. The network of roads remained in use until 1453, when the Ottomans boycotted trade with China and closed the roads. The Silk Roads were used on continued to be used on a smaller scale, but eventually lost their importance due to improvements in seagoing capability. And Spain and Portugal in 15th, 16th centuries were major exporters along the sea routes. In the early 20th century, it was still possible to take a camel caravan from Dunhuang, which was the beginning of the actual Silk Road, westward. And if you're interested in hearing a tale of this, there's a book by Owen Lattimore, published in 1929 by Kodansha Press, called The Desert Road to Turkestan, where he actually hires a camel caravan to take him. It's a very interesting trip. And I've actually seen a camel caravan in northern Afghanistan when I was in Tajikistan looking across the river in 2010. So these Bactrian camels, the two-humped camels, are still in use as a long distance travel means. So let's take a look at the actual map of the roads. So I want you to take a look right in the center of the Taklamakan Desert, and just to the right, Dunhuang. So that's what I said was the real setting off point on the Silk Road. So the Taklamakan Desert is a very interesting geological formation. You can see to the south, there's the Himalayas, and going around to the west, the Hindu Kush, and around to the north of the Taklamakan Desert is the Tian Shan Mountains. So these mountains are formed by the Indian subcontinent drifting northwards and causing the landforms to go up into mountains. But for some reason, the Taklamakan Desert region stops this movement upward, transfers the energy northward to the Tian Shan. So it's a very hazardous desert, very dry. And so the trade routes go either to the north through Turfan, Kashgar, Hokkand, and Tashqurgan westward, or to the south to Minfang and Hotan westward. And there are a couple of other routes, but the most common ones there are the ones that go through Samarkand, Bukhara, Marv, and through Iran and Anatolia to Europe. So in ancient times, dance was always important. And you can see here, these are statues of dancers from the Tang Dynasty, which was about the height of the Silk Road use. The archaeological evidence shows that dance was an important part of ritual and religious activities in pre-state societies. Iconography of dance and dancers on pottery fragments from Elam, Tepe, Sialk, and many other sites in Iran are very well known. These I just took from Salome Gholami's book, Dance in Iran. But you can see in the top picture, clearly women dancing in circles, holding hands, and in the bottom, figures that look like men holding hands, dancing in circles. Craftsmen decorate their material artifacts with images depicting aspects of their life that have important and positive values to their society. So dance must have been important either as a ritual activity or a communal activity. And what we're looking at now is petroglyphs from Qobustan, just south of Baku in Azerbaijan. And archaeologists believe that these are depicting dance, possibly even the folk dance Yalı. The progression from communal dances, that is folk dances that everybody does together, to court dances, that is danced by a specialist dancer intended to be watched rather than an activity that people participate in, comes about with increasing complexity in a society and increasing inequality in social and material status. Shows of wealth and power, including feasting other elites with food and entertainment, including music and dance, become a means for the elites to signal or reinforce their high status. So today, dance occurs all along the Silk Road, and I'm going to show you some examples. And in modern times, nation states such as China and the former Soviet Union use dance as a show of power and political unity. So entertainment as a means of showing wealth and power is still in use. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at dances, and different types of dance, and they are divided by geographical region. So for one thing, you can have group dancing or solo dancing. And in some regions, it's one or the other, or it's a mix of both. You can have dances holding hands in a circle or a line, or dances in a circle not holding hands. And then there's an interesting musical rhythm, 7/8, that is 7 beats to a measure. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So group dances versus solo dances. On the left is the Azerbaijani dance Yavli, very typical group dance holding hands. And on the right, you see a solo dancer from the Sazende tradition of Bukhara. So these are ladies who dance improvised dances as soloists and are basically wedding entertainers. On the right here, we see a circle dance from Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, where they're either holding hands or this is called a basket hold. You can see why, because their hands are woven through each other. And on the right, we see boys dancing in Bojnord, and they're dancing in a circle, and they're dancing the same dance movements, but they are not touching. So back to the map. And first, I want to show you the ISO mapping of solo versus group dances. So towards the west, so we're looking at a line that's just about at the Zagros Mountains. It's almost to the western border of Iran. And to the west, it's primarily group dances, and there are some solo dances, but mostly it's group dances. So for example, in Bulgaria, there's a dance, I'll show you some of it, called Ryczanica, which can be done as a solo or as a couple dance, but it's really not a performance dance except in a theatrical sense. And then to the east, solo dance performers, male and female, is very much the norm, along with also group dancing. So whether circle dances, group dances, to the west, in general, they're holding hands or have hands on shoulders or that basket hold, different ways of holding hands, but they are holding hands and dancing in unison. To the east, there are circle dances, but they don't hold hands. And sometimes there's some improvisation, and sometimes they're dancing exactly the same thing. And then for the dances in 7/8 rhythm, which I'll be playing examples so you understand what I'm talking about. This is the general region where these dances are found. So it's in the Balkans, through Anatolia, through northern Iran, with one exception, which is among the Qashqai, and I have a reason for that. And then in Central Asia, particularly Tajikistan and Afghanistan. So I want to start. So there you have it, basic division from east to west. So I want to start first in East Turkestan, which the Chinese called West China. And this is among the Uyghurs. So they have an event called Meshrep. And the Uyghur Meshrep is a party with dance and music, and it has a structure to it, which is very interesting. So first of all, it begins with music and free rhythm, and people play a game with a scarf. And so it's two people, and one person has the scarf and the other person tries to grab the scarf. They play that for a while, and then people pair up with dance partners. So the dance partners can be male and female, or women and women, or men and men. They can be any age, adults with children, and it's completely a social dance. And it begins by selecting your partner by offering tea. So one person offers tea, and they they drink them out of little bowls, not out of glasses, but small bowls. And so they share some tea, and then they begin their partner dance. And sometimes they actually dance with the tea bowl in their hands. Excuse me. Then the music speeds up and they continue dancing the partner dance, but a little bit faster. And then the music changes rhythm and the dance finishes with a competition. So in this competition, everyone is dancing the same step together, and they begin by dancing, going counterclockwise. And then someone decides to change the direction of the dance, and they start dancing. That person starts dancing clockwise, and everybody has to immediately change to dancing clockwise. And anybody who doesn't immediately change is out of the dance. And they keep doing the dance until it's down to 2 people and then 1 person. So I'm going to show you little clips just because of time. And so remember, we start with a little bit of music, a scarf game, people choosing dance partners by offering tea, the slow partner dance, a faster partner dance, and the dance competition. That was the scarf game, and here's tea. I should say before we move on to the next section that this is a choreography performed by professional dancers. So this is a staging of the mishrep. It's not an actual mishrep. An actual mishrep is a party at someone's house. The next thing I want to show you is the Uyghur women's solo dance. This is a creation basically of the Chinese government, sort of with propaganda purposes, because women did not perform as soloists. But again, they wanted to create a kind of culture for export and because of all, they made performing ensembles for all of the nationalities in China. So they opened conservatories of dance, and some of the dancers became very famous and very popular and are known as dance queens. One of the ways that you see them performing is along with singers. And many of the videos that are available on YouTube are of these dance queens performing to singers. And so I'm showing you a short clip of one of these videos that I got from the YouTube, and with one of the dance queens dancing with the singer. Next, we go to Tajikistan and the Ismaili community in the Pamir Mountains of Tajikistan in Badakhshan. Dance is a part of a music performance called Maddo. Maddo is a suite of songs and the opportunity to dance, either a performance or for people to dance together. It's basically a ritual, but also a party. It's something that's done related to life passages, births and deaths, or a wedding. It can be a healing ritual. It has several sections. In some ways, it's similar to Dastgah performance in that it has sections. It begins with men singing with daf, called daf saws. There are instrumental solos, there's group songs. All of the songs, even though their language is related to Sordian and is not understandable by Iranian speakers, by Farsi speakers, they sing the same mystical poetry that Iranians sing in Persian classical music. It can go on for many, many hours. The musicians trade off, the lead singers trade off, and they just keep going. So this dance I'm going to show you is a professional performing ensemble. And this is solo dance called Rapo. Rapo is probably the most common dance in this region. It can be a couple dance or a solo dance. It can be people dancing in a mob in the middle of the room. And I will just let you see it. Next, we'll go to Uzbekistan. Uzbek classical music performance is also similar in principle to Iranian dastgah music. It's done within maqams. The dances are very stately and elegant, performed by women to mystical poetry or to poems about women's lives. There are many, many styles of dance in Uzbekistan. I'm going to show you two. So this one is the shashmakam dance. So the second clip from Uzbekistan I want to show you is Khorezmi and the dance Lazgi, which is the national dance of Khorezm, the former Khanate of Khiva. It involves lots of shivery movements of shoulders and hands. There have been speculation that is related to shamanistic dance movements. There's a kind of musical instrument that dancers dance with traditionally, which is a pair of stones in each hand. And the way you play them is by shaking the hands. And so some of the movements are related to that. And now I'd like to show you the dance Atan from Afghanistan. It's the national dance of Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, it was done only by men, but in the diaspora, women dance it also. It starts slow and simple and builds to a fast and complex dance with spins and squats. The men dance in a large circle. They don't hold hands. They dance the same steps with some variation, and then the faster the music gets, the more variation there is to it. And finally, we come to Iran. I'd like to show you men's dance from Khorasan. The men dance in a circle and they dance the same steps together. I think this is from Hof, or it might be Torbatijam. You might have seen this film. I think it was made in the early 70s. So I'd like to show you some film from Qashqai women in southwest Iran. I believe, this is my belief, that the Qashqai originate, or perhaps their most recent stop before they came to southwest Iran, was along the Qashqai Darya in southern Uzbekistan. They speak a Turkic language, and they dance in open circles. The women dance in large open circles with scarves, and each woman does her own dance. There are basic movements to each piece of music and to each rhythm, but each woman does her own thing. I apologize for the quality of this. This was filmed by me in Iran in 1975, and unfortunately the film deteriorated a little bit before I was able to transfer it to video. Next, we go to Azerbaijan. The dances of Azerbaijan are both solos and duets, but also line dances called yallı, which are similar to Kurdish dances, which we'll see in a bit. I want to show you an example of a women's solo dance. This is my teacher, Aroya Aliyeva, who is a TV star and celebrity and a very famous solo dancer. So this is definitely a performance dance, not a party dance, but this is a place where men and men dance together at parties. So this is the women's solo dance. Oh, okay. And now Kurdistan. So as I'm sure you know, there are Kurds in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Syria, and they all have a similar kind of dance where they dance in close lines, shoulder to shoulder, holding hands, and they move together, except the leader of the line does his improvisation a bit, but this is a perfect example of a line dance holding hands. So now to Eastern Anatolia in the Turkish area of Erzurum. These are men's line dances, and they use a shoulder hold, which you'll see they have their hands on each other's shoulders. See that? How do you see that? And now to Western Turkey, to the Zeybeks and the Eastern Mediterranean region of Izmir. So this is a really interesting exception to the rule of dance in the West, because they dance in a circle, but they don't touch. There have been speculation of where the Zeybeks came from, and some people speculate that Zeybek is the same as Uzbek, and that they're actually Turks from Central Asia that ended up on the Mediterranean coast of Turkey. They do, I'm going to show you two examples just because I love it so much. And also because in one of them, they briefly have a shoulder hold. The Zeybeks were irregular militia and guerrilla fighters in the late 17th to early 20th centuries. And their dances include squats and turns and a very martial attitude. If you have a chance to look up Zeybeks, I think you'll find it very interesting. They're very interesting characters, tough guys, and military commanders. wondering why the Erzurum dance and this one are in a gymnasium, it's because in Turkey, folk dance is, at least it has been so far, taught in schools, and then they have competitions. So those two groups were competing, and you could see the row of judges in the front. Okay, from Turkey, we go to Bulgaria. And I'm going to show you the most common line dance in Bulgaria called pravo huro. It means basically simple dance. It is what I call the ubiquitous 6-count dance. And someday I'll do a dance workshop with you on 6-count dances from around the world. So basically it's 2 steps to the right, 1 to the left, and 2 counts for each step. They're holding hands, and the steps are very simple. This is definitely one of those communal dances where when there's an occasion to dance, people get together, they dance closely, and instead of thinking a lot about what their feet are doing, they're chatting to each other, enjoying the music, and kind of going on autopilot with their feet. From Bulgaria, we go right next door to Macedonia. The dances are very similar in many ways, and some of them are a little bit different. So this dance is a men's dance called teshkoto, which means heavy dance, and it's a shoulder hold. It is very difficult, requires a great deal of balance and control. And at the far western end of the Silk Road is Croatia. This is a closed circle dance with either a shoulder or a basket hold, front basket hold. Both men and women dance. Sometimes they dance in mixed lines. The body is basically very still. There's lots of little footwork, and everyone dances together. and now we come to this interesting 7/8 rhythm. So this is a rhythm that is found only in certain parts of the world. I've only found it in that one band that I showed you, and plus in the Qashqai, which I'll explain. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either do it 4 plus 3 or 3 plus 4. So it can be da 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 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, or it can be the other way 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. So I'm going to play some examples of just of the music, and then I'll show you some dances. So the first one is from Kulab, Tajikistan, and I'll show you some dance of it later. And it can either be 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. And the picture is me in my Kulab costume. Okay, and here's this exception for that northern Iranian band, and this is the Qashqai men's Ho Oynamak, or Chubazi. And the reason I think it's the exception because nothing else around it is like that. But the Qashqai, as I said, I believe come from the Qashqai Darya in Uzbekistan, in the region where there is 7/8. So let's hear a little bit of this. And then this is from the Eastern Black Sea, the Laz people, and also Turks. The Laz are related to the Georgians, but there are also Turks there. And this is 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. This, by the way, was a recording from a performance that my husband and I did with our dear friend, the late Yashar Turna, who was one of the most famous kemanchacıs of the Eastern Black Sea in Turkey. So for our last 7/8 music clip, this is Bulgarian, Mandara from Western Anatolia. And here we are with Rycznica in Bulgarian Thrace. last but not least, Macedonia. Okay, and now some dances. So the first one is from Kulab in the lowland region of Tajikistan. The dance is a lot of shoulder movement in all directions. And it is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's pretty fast. Now, I'm going to show you a choreography I did of Gashgai Men's Chubazi Ho Oynamak, based on my research in Iran in 1975. I couldn't find any videos of Iranians in Iran doing it, but I wanted to show you. And here are dancers from the Eastern Black Sea. And Ruchenica from Western Bulgaria. So to summarize, dance is important all along the Silk Road. It has very ancient origins, possibly originating from ritual, now includes both communal participatory dance as well as performance dance. Some elements are found almost the entire Silk Road and some just partial, like the dance in 7/8 rhythms. From west to east, we have a division of dancing in circle or line while holding hands, or dancing in circles not holding hands, dancing in a group versus one person dancing by themselves, or dancing in couples. So now if you have any questions, I am happy to take your questions. You can unmute yourself and ask. You can write something in the chat.